Hack the neuroscience of discipline. Build real grit. She stared at the calendar on her phone. 47 days since her last attempt. The app was still there, mocking her with forgotten goals and half-finished plans. She wanted to delete it, but something stopped her finger mid-tap. Most people think discipline is about willpower, like there's some internal battery you're either born with or you're not. She believed that too. Once believed she was just weak, fundamentally broken in some way that made consistency impossible for her. But what she didn't know yet was that her brain had been working against her the entire time. Not because she lacked strength, but because she'd been fighting biology itself. The science is actually stunning when you look at it. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for self-control and future planning, burns through glucose faster than almost any other brain region. Every decision to resist temptation, every moment of forcing yourself forward drains it further. Researchers at Stanford discovered something that changes everything. Willpower isn't a character trait. It's a finite resource that depletes with use, like muscle glycogen during a workout, which means trying to power through with sheer determination is like trying to sprint a marathon. She learned this the hard way, of course. There was a morning she'd never forget. 6 a.m., alarm screaming, body refusing to move. She'd promised herself this time would be different. This time she'd be the person who didn't quit. But her hand reached for the snooze button anyway, and the shame flooded in before she was even fully awake. What makes someone keep going when everything inside them wants to stop? That question haunted her for weeks. She watched people at the gym, studied their faces, searched for some visible sign of what they possessed that she didn't. Some looked effortless in their routine. Others clearly struggled but showed up anyway. What was the difference? The answer wasn't what she expected. Dr. Wendy Wood, a psychologist who spent decades studying human behavior, found that discipline isn't really about discipline at all, at least not the way we think about it. About 43% of what we do each day is habit, actions performed automatically, without conscious thought or decision-making. The people who seem disciplined aren't making hundreds of willpower-based choices. They've automated the hard parts. But here's where it gets interesting and where her whole understanding started to shift. Creating habits isn't about repetition alone. It's about something neuroscientists call context-dependent memory. Your brain doesn't just remember what you did, it remembers where, when, and how you felt while doing it. She tested this without even realizing it. One morning, instead of trying to force herself to meditate in bed, where she always failed, she moved to the kitchen floor. Different space, different light, different association. Her brain didn't have the same resistance patterns loaded up. The meditation actually happened. Small shift, massive difference. There's a neurochemical reason this works. When you perform an action in a consistent context, your basal ganglia begin encoding that pattern. Over time, the behavior becomes triggered automatically by the environment itself. You don't have to decide anymore, the context decides for you. This is why changing one variable can break years of stuck patterns. But she was still missing something crucial. The habits were starting to form, yes, but they felt hollow. Mechanical. She'd show up, go through the motions, and feel nothing. No satisfaction, no sense of progress, just exhausting repetition. Then came the setback that almost ended everything. 3 months in, she got injured. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to disrupt her routine completely. The habits she'd carefully built suddenly had no place to land. She couldn't do the physical movements, couldn't follow the schedule, couldn't maintain the environment that had been working. Part of her felt almost relieved, like the universe was giving her permission to stop pretending. What she didn't know was that her brain was about to teach her the most important lesson of all. Research from the University of Chicago shows something profound about motivation and the human nervous system. When people connect their actions to a sense of purpose, even a small one, their brain's reward circuitry fires differently. The ventral striatum involved in processing rewards shows increased activation, not just during the outcome, but during the effort itself. Meaning transforms struggle into something the brain actually wants to repeat. She discovered this accidentally while recovering. Unable to exercise, she started journaling about why she'd wanted to build discipline in the first place. Not the surface reasons, the real ones. The memories of feeling powerless. The moments she'd let herself down. The person she wanted to become for her daughter. The words poured out, messy and raw and true. Something shifted in that moment. When she could finally move again, it wasn't about the habit anymore. It wasn't about proving something or checking boxes. It was about becoming someone who kept promises to herself, especially the hard ones. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania found that people who regularly connect their daily actions to their deeper values show significantly higher rates of sustained behavior change. The brain stops seeing discipline as a burden and starts seeing it as identity. You're not doing the thing. You're being the person who does the thing. But here's where most people still get it wrong, and where she almost did too. She thought once she had the meaning, once she understood the neuroscience, everything would click into place. That discipline would finally feel natural, easy, even. But 2 weeks back into her routine, she hit a wall of resistance so strong she almost walked away again. progress isn't linear. Your nervous system doesn't care about your intentions. There's a phenomenon neuroscientists call the extinction burst. When you're breaking an old pattern, your brain fights back hard right before it lets go. Cravings intensify. Resistance multiplies. Every old thought pattern fires up one last time to pull you back to what's familiar. This is the moment where most people quit, thinking they've failed. She almost did, but she remembered something a therapist once told her. Feelings aren't facts. Just because your brain is screaming doesn't mean you have to obey. So she did the thing anyway. Not perfectly, not with enthusiasm. But she did it, and the burst passed. What surprised me most during my own journey with discipline wasn't just how resistance bands improved my experience with building consistent movement, but how everything started to feel different once I switched to the right method. I wasn't expecting such a clear change, and honestly, I tested it more than a few times before I figured out what really worked. This isn't a promotion, just sharing real results that made a noticeable difference for me. I'll leave the link below if you want to explore what I mean. But the real breakthrough came from understanding something deeper about the nervous system itself. Your autonomic nervous system has two primary states: sympathetic, which drives action and stress response, and parasympathetic, which governs rest and recovery. Most people trying to build discipline stay locked in sympathetic activation, constantly pushing, forcing, grinding through resistance. But research from the polyvagal theory shows that sustainable behavior change requires safety signals. Your nervous system needs to feel safe enough to adapt, not threatened into compliance. She learned this when she stopped treating missed days as failures and started treating them as data. Her nervous system relaxed. Paradoxically, consistency improved. Sometimes, we only understand strength when we stop weaponizing it against ourselves. There's a beautiful study from the University of Zurich that demonstrates this. Participants who practiced self-compassion after setbacks showed higher rates of goal persistence than those who used self-criticism. The brain responds better to encouragement than punishment, even when the voice is your own. This doesn't mean lowering standards, it means changing the relationship. She started talking to herself the way she'd talk to someone she loved. Not with false praise, but with honest acknowledgement. Today was hard, and you showed up anyway. Simple, true, powerful. Her discipline stopped feeling like warfare and started feeling like partnership. But then came the question that almost no one talks about, the one that determines whether change actually lasts. What happens when motivation fades completely? Because it will fade. That's not pessimism, it's neuroscience. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter most associated with motivation and reward, operates on a prediction error signal. When something is new and exciting, dopamine floods your system. But as the behavior becomes familiar, the response diminishes. This is called hedonic adaptation, your brain's tendency to return to baseline no matter how positive the change, which means motivation-based discipline has a built-in expiration date. The answer isn't more motivation, it's systems that work without it. She figured this out on a morning when she felt absolutely nothing. No inspiration, no drive, no emotional connection to her goals whatsoever, just flat, empty neutrality. In the past, this would have been the end. But she'd built something different by then. She didn't need to feel like doing it. The structure held her when the feeling didn't. James Clear's research on habit formation emphasizes this. Make it so easy you can't say no. Reduce the friction so much that the action happens before your brain has time to resist. 2 minutes, 1 rep, just show up. The showing up is the discipline. Everything else is just details. But there's one more layer most people never reach, and it's where real transformation lives. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman describes something called limbic friction, the gap between what you intend to do and what you actually do. Everyone has it. The difference isn't elimination, it's navigation. High performers don't have less resistance. They've trained their nervous system to move through it faster. She practiced this deliberately. When resistance showed up, instead of fighting it or collapsing under it, she observed it. Named it. There's the voice that says, "I'm too tired." Then acted anyway. Over time, something remarkable happened. The gap shortened. Not because the resistance disappeared, but because her relationship to it changed completely. The voice was still there. She just stopped letting it drive. Somewhere between the failures and the quiet mornings, she found rhythm and peace. Not the absence of struggle, but the presence of something stronger. She'd built trust with herself, and that trust became the foundation everything else rested on. When she looked in the mirror again, it wasn't her reflection that had changed, it was what she believed about herself. Discipline isn't about control. It's about creating conditions where your brain naturally moves toward what serves you. It's about understanding that you're not fighting yourself, you're rewiring yourself. And that takes patience, precision, and a willingness to work with biology instead of against it. The neuroscience makes it clear. Grit isn't genetic. It's built, one decision at a time, in environments designed to support your nervous system rather than override it. Real discipline doesn't feel like force, it feels like alignment. And maybe that's the real secret no one tells you. The most powerful version of yourself isn't the one who never struggles, it's the one who struggles and keeps going anyway. Not because you have to, but because you've learned how. Tell us which country or city you're watching from, and what part of this story resonated most with you. See you in the next video. Bye.